Welcome to the Corporate Detox podcast. I'm your host, Amanda McWhorter. I'm a corporate dropout, recovering people pleaser and perfectionist turned burnout recovery coach. If you are sick of the corporate roller coaster ride and ready to step into a life you love, this is the podcast for you. Hey there, welcome back to the Corporate Detox podcast. On today's episode, I am joined by Kala Simmons. Kala is a certified master life coach and master's level social worker. Her professional and academic track record are filled with over a decade of experience in mental health and social services, with the largest portion of her expertise being in treatment planning and goal attainment. In addition to her formal education and training, Kala has experienced her own share of wins, losses, goal success, and starting over. After extensive therapy, coaching, and embarking on her own personal growth journey, Kala now guides other women to identify their highest self, step into that power, and fearlessly pursue the life of their dreams. Oh my gosh, Kala. I'm so excited to have you on here. I don't know, maybe a couple weeks ago, I was like, hey, who wants to be interviewed this summer? You're like, me. And I was just so excited to be able to have you on. I'm new to your world and you're new to my world. So
yes,
I
absolutely.
cannot wait for this conversation. So why don't we get started with your corporate detox story?
Yes. So first, let me just say how excited I am to be on your podcast. I met you a couple of weeks ago in a challenge and I was like, wow, she's amazing. And I wish I had known about corporate detox like 2 years ago because like my life would be different. But I am a psychiatric social worker by trade. And so you can just imagine after 2020, how much anxiety we have seen, how much just different things like the psych hospital was full, right? Like everything was empty, but we were full. We worked the entire pandemic and our teams were falling apart because of course nursing staff wasn't there. And so we're picking up extra groups and we're picking up extra clients and we're picking up extra people. And I felt so stressed and spread so thin and so responsible for like holding up everything. I have a team of 6 and we swung the pandemic with 4 of us working for a team of 6 and I was included in the 4. So it was me and 3 other people and we worked around the clock, right? So I was working 60, 70, sometimes 80-hour weeks to make sure that everything stayed within standards. And I was just exhausted. And I've been in psych for 13 years. And I was sitting crisscross applesauce on my bed one night. And I looked up at my boyfriend and I was like, I think I'm depressed. And I am Little Miss Sunshine. Like I am the joy, I'm the silver lining for everybody in my family and my team. And he's like, are you sure? And I'm like, I'm pretty sure this is that feeling that I talk to people about every single day. And so I personally went to therapy and I invested in coaching. It was a take charge at work program that I started doing. And of course, I knew all the answers because these are the things that I was doing with my clients, but I never thought about applying that to myself. And what it boiled down to was boundaries. And I did the program for about 8 weeks and I stayed in therapy and we talked about like, I was not responsible for everybody. I was responsible for Kala and what Kala could pull. And just step by step, we started working with, you're only working your 37.5. And I did not realize, like, as an overachiever, I'm a recovering overachiever, I did not realize how hard that would be for me because I felt like I was letting everyone down and I wasn't letting anyone down. I was helping myself up. And so literally it took about a year before I felt better again and I could breathe again. And then I realized, you're not the only person that's going through this. You're not the only person who feels responsible for everyone. And I invested in coaching myself and I started coaching and I started pulling people out of the muck because I literally could see it. But it was very, very interesting to see the transition in myself where it was like, I don't want to go to work, but I have to go to work. I need to go to work. And it, in hindsight, you get that way because you care. And so I've had to teach myself that you can love on people, you can care about people, you can support people, and you can still say no. So boundaries more than anything. Boundaries, the development of boundaries and holding to them is my corporate detox story.
Oh my gosh. Okay, for the listeners. First of all, when I interview people on here, and Kayla and I just had this conversation, so we don't prep. Like I have like three basic questions. So I totally did not know the boundaries was going to come into this conversation, but I'm so glad that it is because boundaries are huge. And I know like in my own corporate detox story, I had no boundaries in any area of my life. Right. Like, and for folks that are like us, like we're constantly, like you're saying, like feeling good to hold everyone, like we're jumping in and trying to help. Like no matter what, I'm like the person that's like, I jump in, and some people, can look at that as like pushy or judgmental. Like I'm always wanting to help, help all the time, and no boundaries whatsoever. So I totally feel you. Like it is such a big part of burnout. And then couple that with like the perfectionism and the people pleasing. It's like the perfect recipe for burnout.
Yes, it's like, oh, let me look at my never-ending calendar and see what I can do for you. So, yes, definitely. Perfect recipe.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So, working through the pandemic in that environment, was there like, can you look back and like almost see like this point where, okay, like we're rolling into like March of 2020 and things are like this, and then it's like they exploded, like almost the way you like felt?
Oh, yeah. So when you work in psych, it's very small, very intimate, very quiet. So I work at the largest state psychiatric hospital in Tennessee. And so we were able to do all these screenings. Like I've never seen that many screenings. It's kind of like you go up to the Starship Enterprise and you key in your badge number and they screen you for a fever and they ask all these questions, and we're getting our nose swabbed every week. And like I could just see like the exhaustion on my coworkers' faces, on my patients' faces. And then when we had our outbreak inside the hospital, it was crazy because it's like we'd done maybe 7 or 8 months where no one was sick and we did so good. And then all of a sudden there were like 8 cases on this unit, 7 cases on this unit. Oh, we're going to have to open up a COVID unit. It was unreal. And yeah, I can say that probably it was 2021 before that happened. So maybe February 2021. It's like that meme where everything is on fire. Yeah. And it's like, this is fine. This is fine. It totally wasn't fine because you could see the slow progression of exhaustion on my face, on our coworkers' faces. Our patients were scared. We were scared, but definitely.
I feel like I hate saying coming out of the pandemic, but going into the pandemic, there was definitely, no one talked about the mental heaviness that the pandemic was going to play. And I feel like the mental health issues that we continue to see are like that lingering side effect, right? That lingering thing that's like left over from the pandemic.
Oh, definitely. We see a lot of detox patients coming in. We see a lot of anxiety, still heightened anxiety, and we see a lot of worry. And I think every industry was hit really, really hard, but definitely the healthcare industry and then the mental healthcare industry was hit super hard because we were carrying our own illnesses, carrying our own stress, and still having to go out and take care of people who were sick. And it's like, how do you comfort someone and say everything's going to be okay when you don't truly know if everything's going to be okay? It was a lot to carry.
Yeah.
And we're doing that like short staff, almost no staff. That was really hard.
So that night that you were sitting on your bed, right, crisscross applesauce on your bed, and you were like, oh my gosh, I'm depressed. From that point forward, what did you change?
So I started boundaries setting like really, really heavily. And one of the things that my coach and I worked on was anticipation of someone asking you to do something that you were unable to do. either mentally or physically just unable to do. And so I rehearsed it and I told my closest family members, in the coming weeks, you're going to be asking me to do some things that you typically ask me to do or things I've said yes to in before, but I'm going to start saying no and setting boundaries. I need you to respect that because I'm teaching myself to set boundaries in the corporate world. And the looks on their faces in FaceTime calls or the hangups or the text backs that were short, I was not prepared. And I don't think that they were prepared. But like a year and a half later, like when I say no, they're like, okay, no bigs. But it was setting the boundaries and holding myself accountable and sitting with the discomfort. That silence when you tell somebody no.
Oh my God.
Oh, as a recovering people pleaser, it's like, oh God, they're gonna hate me. They're not gonna talk to me anymore. Well, I blew it. Oh God. Once I learned to sit with that and like nobody died, it was totally cool. But that was hard.
Oh man. So it's like almost like you practice on your family first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then you implemented that at work.
Yes. I practiced on my family first and then I implemented it at work.
Ooh, how did that go?
It was very interesting because there were some things that just did not get done or they got done late. And I would say I am one person and I would appreciate the ability to have a work-life balance. We are all struggling, but in order to make sure that I stay healthy, this is what I've got to do. And when it's that quote, speak the truth, even if your voice shakes, the first couple of times that I said that, I could hear the cracks in my voice, but I kept saying it over and over and over. And out of that, I've been given additional staff. My hours are more flexible. Like so many things came out of me being willing to speak up for myself, but the look on my supervisor's face then and the look on her face now when I assert myself or I assert a boundary, completely different.
Oh
Because
my
it was like,
gosh.
oh, yeah.
That's amazing. That's
Yes.
amazing. And that is so juicy for our listeners to hear
Yeah.
because so many of us struggle with that, right? Like, oh, we wait
Mhm.
till we're pushed to like the brink.
Mhm.
And then having that conversation, even though it's hard, is like a total different, it's an explosion from some
Mhm.
people versus like standing your ground. And really at that moment, like you stepped into your power.
Oh yeah. Like I can remember like my tears were flowing down and I was like, I know I sound emotional, but right now I am just overwhelmed. Like I was so
Mhm.
and now I say I don't do overwhelmed, but at that point, girl, I was so overwhelmed. But it was like, even if your voice shakes, you have to tell the truth. It became in order to care for others, you have to care for yourself. All of the things that I had put into practice for over a decade with other people, I became my own person. It was that physician heal yourself. It was
Mhm.
literally that kind of phenomenon.
Yeah. And that's the medicine that your clients need,
Yes. Yes,
right?
definitely.
Oh my
Yes.
gosh. That's amazing. So, stepping into your power, talk to me about like the dynamics with your coworkers. I know it's not a huge team, but in my mind, it's like a moment like that, and then earning from what you're saying, like you earn the respect from your supervisor. Like you got more
Yes.
staff, you got more resources after
Mhm.
you continue to stand your ground and step into your power. So like tell me that like how did that rub off on your team or like was there a change in the way that they looked at you?
It's so funny that you say that because I lost two staff members during the pandemic who have come back since that time and they're back on my team because you know what? They say I'm a really good boss. So
There you go. I
they
love
have
it.
come back and each of them says, and even my other team members say, you're different now. And it's because previously it was that I want everybody to get to do everything they want to do because I'm a people pleaser. And so, yes, you can have off and yes, you can take a half day. And so I started asking questions like, sure, you can have that day off, but tell me how we're going to work out this coverage plan. Sure, I can cover your group, but can you do this? And so they weren't used to that caveat where the answer is still yes, but it becomes a collaborative effort to get things covered instead of me doing everything. And so there was some uneasiness with that in the beginning because people are used to just being like, oh, I'll just tell my boss I'm not coming. And then it turns into, hey, Kayla, I need off on Wednesday. And then I did this on Tuesday and I'll do this when I get back. And it's like, why didn't I do this before? But a lot of it was that fear of disappointing people. It was the people pleasing. It was the lack of boundaries.
Mm. So your leadership now so much different. Period. Like, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and what you said, like you are a ray of sunshine. I have not been in your world for very long at all. And I'll tell you, I love even just seeing the replays of when you go live on Facebook.
Well,
Um,
thank you.
it's amazing. I can just imagine like those folks that like they want to come back and work with you because of your leadership.
Yeah, I hear that a lot. And it's that and pouring into my people. Like, I'm all for stretching activities. Like, if you want a reference and you want to do something that's bigger scale than this, I am your biggest cheerleader. You want to go back to school? I'm your biggest cheerleader because I'm never going to clip your wings, right? And so people aren't afraid to leave because they know that if there's availability, I only hire people that I like. In that interview process, it is truly a size up. I'm like, are you here for these people? And I love on my team, and I know it's a small team, so we have a very strange. People are always like, "That's your boss," and it's like, "Yes," but that's so that they can be honest with me. Like, I value transparency over everything. So tell me your daughter has a dance recital, so I can get you out of here early. Like, you don't have to lie to me. Tell me
Yeah.
I had a really late night, Kayla. I'm going to be late. Okay, because when we're honest with one another, then I have more empathy for you, and vice versa. And so when you're short or snappy, I'm not popping off. I'm like, are you okay? Versus I'm writing you up. And so that's the dynamic you can build when you have a small team.
Oh my gosh. This so many, you were like dropping gold nuggets all over the place today.
Just living my life, girl. Living my
I love
life.
it. I love it. So I want you to start. Okay. So you obviously you're still working, right?
Yes,
In
I
the
am.
in the mental health field. Is that how you
Yes.
put this? Okay. So, but you also are out
Mm-hmm.
there inspiring people. So like you're inspiring people in your 9 to 5,
Mm-hmm.
and then you're out here building this amazing coaching business on the side. Do you want to talk
Absolutely.
about like how you bring all that work together?
Well, yeah, of course. So, I'm the queen of fresh starts, Amanda. Um, I cannot tell you how many times I have started my life over. And most of the time out of necessity, not because I wanted to, but because of remaining who I was, literally was draining me, draining the life out of me. And so I have spent over a decade in the mental health field and really like cheering for the underdog. Like, I've worked in the private sector, but I really like indigent care. I like public health. I really like going like down to the missions and doing that kind of work because those people need just as many services and just as much compassion. They just can't afford those kinds of services. So I'm
Yeah.
like, Kayla, this is your passion. You have to go where those people need it, right? Um, and as a starter overer, I often say I'm a leader. I go first. And so, as a person who is in the field and leading in the field, recognizing all of those symptoms that I had, all of the fears that I had, I'm like, other people need to know that I did this. And that gives them the courage to do it. So, my coach, Chrissy Connor, shout out to Chrissy, she always says, "You're the evidence," right? And so, I'm the evidence that you get to start your life over, whether that's a divorce, whether that's career, whether that is, a relationship, no matter what it is, you're not locked into being this one person. And so I started coaching because I'm like, I've done it and people need that integration mastery. They don't want somebody who's just read it in a textbook, right? So I can tell you from a textbook what depression looks like, and I can tell you from experience. I can tell you what the benefits of therapy are about, and then I can tell you because I've been. And people are much more receptive of that than just, well, you need to do this. And it's like, this is what I did. I'm not really sure what you should do, but if it were me, I might try it this way, or talk to me about what you want to do. So I guess, yeah, I just decided that I was going to live it. I was going to embody who I am fully. And that led me to coaching.
I'm speechless. So
Don't be.
I was sitting, oh my gosh, I'm tearing up. So I was sitting thinking the last couple days, like our stories are so similar when you talk about it, right? Like we start over out of necessity.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people, and it hurts my heart, the people that refuse, like they're scared. They refuse to start over, no matter
Mm-hmm.
what their story is. And sometimes the cards that they've been dealt, like they have to, but it's not with an optimistic outlook.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. When you work for the state, for any state, you develop relationships with people who've been there across the spectrum. And I can't tell you how many times I hear, Kayla, you're super young. You can still get out. And I'll say to them, you can too. Like, you don't, I know you've got 10 years left. It doesn't have to be here. Your next 5 years doesn't have to be here. But lots of times it's not because people don't believe in you or what you can do for them. They don't believe in themselves. And that breaks
Yeah.
my heart.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. So my entire coaching premise is to sow seeds of belief. And it might not grow today, it might not grow next week, but in one day I want them to look up and be like, yes, I can. And I'm like, I told you so. Totally. So yes, you're right.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so, I mean, even like friends, that I have or people that I worked with in the past, in the corporate space, I hear from so many people, I love what you're doing and you were so brave. Like you were so
Mm-hmm.
brave. And I'm like, you're brave too. You're brave too. You don't have to stay in this box if you
Mm-hmm.
don't want to be.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And that is, people say that very frequently. My supervisors actually said that. She's like, Kayla, are you leaving corporate America? And I'm like, I don't know that I'm necessarily leaving corporate, but I'm going to make sure that if I'm there, it's my choice.
Yeah.
Like that will be my choice to get up and come here because I do love what I do.
Yeah.
But I'm never going to be in a situation again where I feel stuck, where I feel pigeonholed, where it's like it's this or nothing. Absolutely not. We are so much more powerful than we believe. We've just got to get to work.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So talk about how people like, first of all, where can they find you because they need to follow you? Like this is definitely, and I'm going to drop all your links in the show notes, but you are such an inspiration. Like
Thank
honestly,
you.
you are such an inspiration and you speak from your heart and with your passion all the time.
Yes. Well, thank you. I do. It's genuinely who I am. I spent a lot of time pretending to be the perfect girl and to do the perfect thing and, all the family, the American dream. And then one day I was just like, you know what? It's too heavy. And so I put it down and I just started being who I am. You can find me everywhere on Instagram and Facebook at Hey Coach K. So just Hey Coach, the letter K. And then on TikTok at Hey Coach K1. And then my website is heycoachk.co. So literally you can
Love
find
it.
me everywhere. Yes, everywhere.
Love it. Love it. So, with the coaching work that you do, is there like a certain like ideal client that you have? Are they at a certain place in their life? Like tell us about that because I feel like there's, obviously I have like hung on to this corporate detox brand
Yeah.
and name, but I'm at this place in my career in my life where I'm like, hey, there's so many more people out there for me to help, even
Mm-hmm.
if they're not in the corporate world. So like tell people who
Yeah.
are you looking for? Who do you want
So
to help?
my idea client is a middle-aged woman who's starting over in life, love, career, relationships, literally anything. It could be literally she's decided that I want to decide who I am because we're together, we will identify what that higher power is and tap into it. So you can be starting over in any phase of life. And I have my clients range from ages 22. My oldest client is 66. So, like, literally, I say middle aged women, but if you want a fresh start and you're just looking for someone to sit down and help you map it out, what does that even look like? I am looking for you. Like, you're my person. And when I think back on it, we start over. We say you can start over whenever we start over at multiple different times of life. So that's my idea person. I have not crazy, Amanda. I have a ton of men who watch my content and send emails and tell me how much it's helped their relationship. Just
That's
being able to think,
awesome.
I know, thinking about the ways that they talk with their girlfriends and wives. And so I don't necessarily market to men, but I really have a large male following as well. So yeah.
That's great. That's
Yes.
great.
Yes.
So you gave a shout out to Christy, and Christy's amazing. And I'm new to Christy's
She is.
world. Like I've really I started following her in the first of this year. So 6 months
Yes.
ish. She's great.
She.
Let's talk about coaching because
Mhm.
this is definitely something that I don't know your experience, but for me in the corporate world, like I didn't even know this world of coaching was out there. I had no clue. And
Yes.
much like you, I was working so many hours that by the time I got home, like I wasn't looking for anything else. Like I seriously just like wanted to get done with my evening, get my kiddo to bed and like me go to sleep, right? Like I really wasn't out there looking. And I think there's so many people that think that personal growth is something that your company gives you
Hmm. And
versus
it's
something
not.
that you can invest in. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's not.
so like let's talk about coaching period. Like did you know how long have you known that coaching was out there?
So coming from the mental health space, I've known that coaching was on the rise, at least for the last couple of years. I think that when you come from mental health, people really prioritize therapy or counseling. However, you have that client who has had really bad therapy experiences or really bad, counseling experiences. And so they're not necessarily wanting to admit because of the stigma that I'm in therapy per se, but
Yeah.
they're willing to get a coach, right? And so it's kind of like marrying the two. The primary difference is coaching is like, this is what happened to you. I'm really sorry that that's what happened to you. What are we going to do about it? Versus therapy is like, we're going to dig deep down into this and see what happened when you were a kid. And so they're two different things. The difference is a coaching session is shorter as long as you want it to be. If you want 30 minutes, you want to dive in. If we need a 15-minute check-in call, we do 15 minutes. If you're going through the drive-through on your way to pick up your kid from softball, fine. Like chat, let's check in. It's just different. And being willing to just step in and invest in yourself. And even if it's just your coach asking you a couple of questions for you to think on during the week, doing that self-development is life-changing because it's like, oh, I never thought of that. That's my favorite thing for clients to say. They'll be like, oh, that's a tough question. I'm like, is
Yeah.
it? Yeah, we'll sit with it. We'll talk about it next week.
Right? So when you think about your time working with a coach,
Mm-hmm. It makes me so happy.
right? Like what did you think in the beginning?
So I joined just a regular program from Chrissy in February, and it working with her, I've been working with her since March, like as in one of her programs and getting like one-on-one calls with her and really like diving into my business. It is quantum leaped everything. And I feel like I'm a pretty put together person. Like I'm very organized. I know what I'm going to do, but what she has taught me most is to lean back, to trust myself. Or she'll say, well, what are you waiting for? And it's like, I'm waiting because I'm scared. And how is that serving you? Things that I already know, but just hearing it from someone who's already positioned, who's in order to be an expert, you got to be 2 chapters ahead of your person, right? And it's like, I never thought of it that way, but it has empowered me so much just working with her. And so I say to anyone, like, if you find someone who specializes in what you are trying to do, tap in. Like, if the
Yes.
connection is there, tap in.
Yeah. Yeah, I know for me, like the first time I invested in coaching, was right when I left the corporate space. And I had no freaking clue what I was going to do with my life. I just knew I didn't want to do that, right? So it was
I
like
love
all of a
that.
sudden, like this shiny object syndrome started. But I'll tell you, I was super apprehensive in the beginning because it was like, is this for real? Right? Like, is
Yes.
this for real? Can this person really help me? And I am so thankful that I trusted myself
Mm-hmm.
and jumped in.
Yes, I definitely thought that too. I was like, I really don't, I really don't need to be paying anything else right now.
Yeah.
And I am so grateful that I made the investment in that because I've gotten my money back already, right? Like it
Yeah.
immediately, just the transition, the change in when you have a business, that is the biggest personal development journey you'll ever go on. Okay. But not only that, I can already see the benefits of investing in myself and
Yeah.
trusting a coach.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so funny now, like when I talk to people that are in the corporate space that have been investing in coaching, right? Not
Mm-hmm.
not depending like I did, depending on the company I work for to give it to me. like actually making that investment, like they find their job is so much more fulfilling too, because they have like this outside perspective of things. And that was one of the things when I, walked away and was like really reflecting on my corporate life. I was like, oh my gosh, like I loved the training that we would get, but like at the end of the day, it all had a business goal attached to it, right? Like there was definitely, they were getting more out of it than I was, quite honestly, in most cases. So like coaching is definitely something that you decide what you're going to get out of it.
Yes. Yes, it is. Definitely. You decide what you are going to get out of it. That's a perfect way to say it. Like you're
Yeah.
driving that relationship.
Yeah. And it's so cool because you can work with anybody across the world, quite honestly.
Yeah.
Like it's just amazing.
Yes.
It is. It is. So let's talk, let's go back to work, right? And
Okay.
leadership. And at the time that this will air, I'll be in the middle of, launching some new leadership stuff as well.
Cool.
Yeah. So let's chat just about your journey on like being a leader. Did you know that you were a leader, or is that something that you like had to find in you?
It's so funny. I grew up in one of those families where you don't really get a choice. So there are so many of us. My dad is one of 17.
Yeah.
And so I grew up with all these cousins, and it was like you had to be vocal and you had to stand out or you just kind of blended in. And so always did a lot of student leadership and all kinds of things like that. When the opportunity arose for a director's position, I threw my name in the hat, like very confidently. I had no idea what I was doing, but
Yeah.
I've always been that person because I was like a striver to overachieve, right? So my work was noticed. And then I have this huge personality that I'm going to talk to whoever you put me next to. And I feel like over time, my leadership developed more because of investing in coaching and more because of going to therapy, because there's more to being a leader than being a nice person. And in corporate America, when you are nice and you got a big personality, they push you in a leadership spot, but you're a yes man. And like, I didn't realize, oh, you got this job because they know you're going to get the work done. They recognize that it's excessive. They recognize that you're being overworked, but you're going to say yes and you're going to say it with a smile. So my journey, girl, it's been one, definitely been one.
Yeah. So for anyone that's listening that maybe they don't look at themselves as a leader, do you have any words of advice?
Yes. The wonderful thing about leadership is that you can develop it, right? Like if that's what you want to do, you get to develop it. Like I always say that I always say, Tony Robbins says success leaves clues. So if you want to be a leader, study the movement of leaders. Study like what did they do? Like what books did they read? We have documentaries, we have everything. So you can develop that skill. And also, if you have something to say it. Even if you have to send it in an email, say it. You deserve credit for your intellectual property. Stop telling the girl next to you, oh, I think we should do it. No, say it. Say it and make sure that you're getting credit for your thoughts, your ideas, your intellectual property.
Yeah. Yeah. I think back to, some of the folks that I worked with, and I swear it was like we would go to these meetings, every month, a group of store leaders, and there were certain people that just never spoke up. And I remember one meeting when someone spoke up that doesn't typically spoke up. I swear to you, the whole room just like stopped. And like what that person had to say was amazing. It was amazing. Like I can still remember the way, like it almost like gave me goosebumps because I didn't know that person had it in them after all these years.
Yes.
And it was just absolutely amazing. And I think since I've left the corporate world, it's definitely given me a different perspective on leaders. Like they're not just in the corporate space. They don't even have to be out there like working in quotes. Like they can be working in the home. They don't have to be working outside the home.
Yes.
So
So true.
oh my gosh, yes. Like I think of so many, a good friend of mine, has been blessed to be able to stay home with her kiddos as they've gotten older. And I'm like, man, that's like how many hours a week?
Right.
Being
Right.
on all the time
Yes.
as like a full-time mama, like that is leadership.
It is. It's leadership. It
It
is
is
leadership.
leadership.
Definitely.
So, it's been really cool to like put the pieces together. Like being a leader doesn't mean that you have to be out there leading somebody outside of even your home. You can be a
Correct.
leader in a church, in a nonprofit, in a volunteer
Yes.
capacity. Like leadership is in so many different forms. And like truly, if there's anything that I want to accomplish this year, it's to get more people to understand that they're leaders and to really
Yeah,
embrace that.
definitely. There are so many leaders that are silent. And it's like,
Yeah.
just speak up. Speak up. If it helps at all to remember that I started my glow up with a shaky voice and tears pouring out of my eyes talking to my boss. But even if your voice shakes, speak up.
Yes. Yeah. And if you're one of those people listening and let's say you've been in your career for a long time and you're just afraid to speak up
Mm-hmm.
because it seems like nobody's listening, that's the time when you need to.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Truly, it's the time that you need to. And sometimes in the corporate space, people become afraid to speak up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And over the time, it's like we start censoring ourselves because no one's listening to what we have to say.
Mm-hmm.
But even if you've got tears streaming down your face,
Mm-hmm.
even if your voice is shaky, even if it makes you want to grab a bucket because you feel like nauseous, right? Like
Yes.
those are the times when we should be speaking up.
Yes. Definitely. Definitely. Speak up.
Yeah. Yeah. That's something that I hope to instill in my son, right?
Yes.
Because I don't know about you, like you have a huge family. So,
Yes.
I'm sure you had to speak up a lot, but there was also a part of, growing up that sometimes you're just told to be quiet,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yes.
And some people have been conditioned that way.
Yes. Yeah, some people have been conditioned that way. I guess I have two boys. My boys were adopted from therapeutic foster care. And so they grew up with a social work mom. And so often they use the HIPAA phrase and they'll be like, Mom, I need to talk and I would like for you to listen. You don't have to say anything back, but I need you to listen. And it's like, okay, shoot, like say what you need to say. But allowing them that space to like, I don't have to agree with them, but making sure that they feel like listen, respected, heard enough that they can tell me whatever. Like if you can give me a good argument as to why you need a 1 week of being grounded instead of 2, I'll listen. You may convince me, but teaching them very early to allow them to advocate for themselves. I feel really confident when they go out to school or lots of teachers have called me, but they advocate for themselves. It's going to be
Yeah.
respectful, but it's like, I'm not really sure that was fair. I was only given one warning, but you teach them young.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yes.
Kudos to you.
Thank
Seriously.
you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. More of us need to follow that.
Yes.
Definitely. Definitely. Okay, so for our listeners, what's the biggest piece of advice?
The biggest piece of advice that I like to give my clients and my followers on social media is you are exactly where you need to be. Like so many times we're like scrambling to get to the next level, to get to the next step. And so most of the time we have the resources that we need, or we have the space to generate that momentum to move to the next level, right? So don't freak out. It's not too late. You get to start over. You are not behind the curve. It doesn't matter how old you are or where you are. You are not behind the curve. You are exactly where you need to be in order to generate momentum to the next spot. Just chill. Everything's going to be okay. I always say, you like, put your hands over your heart, breathe in and breathe out. That's purpose. That is purpose. So what are you going to do with it? Every day you get a new opportunity to start fresh, to start new. What are you going to do with your opportunity?
Mic drop. I love it. I love it. Okay, so Coach K, I have one more thing I do want to bring up because I think this is a really cool, and I remember this story from one of your lives. Um, Tell us about the day that you stepped into like owning, I'm a coach.
Yeah.
I love it.
So I was on a call with my coach. And I'd been toying around with the idea of changing my Instagram name. I had the same Instagram name for a decade, right? And I'm like, I really want to change my name, but I'm scared. And it's one of those days where Chrissy was like, how is that serving you to be afraid? Like, if you don't like it, Kayla, it's an Instagram handle. You can change it back. Like, she was just very, what are you going to do? Like, I'll let you think on it. And as she's going around to other people, I'm like, I'm a coach. I'm changing my Instagram handle. So, I log into Instagram and like, what are the odds that, hey, Coach K is available? Like, there's probably 50 million Coach Ks. I think Duke's coach is Coach K, right? There's a million Coach Ks in the world. But what are the odds that, hey, Coach K was available? So I check it on Insta and I'm like, okay. And then I check it on Facebook and it's available. And I'm like, okay, so this is my domain. Like, this is my name. Like, this is who I am. And literally everywhere that I went, the domain was available. And it was that day that I decided I am owning this fully. Like, we're on this ride. Let's roll. Like, I am changing lives. What I've got to say is going to be heard worldwide. Like, that's one of my affirmations. I am a household name in the coaching and transformation space. I say it every single day. And when I changed my domain, I decided to own it. It was just that day. I was like, okay, this is it. I'm Coach K.
Before we got on here today, I was thinking like, should I just start out with "Hey, Coach K" right out of the gate, or do I wait and like get to the story? So no, I can say, "Hey, Coach K."
Hey.
Oh my gosh, it's been great to be able to watch you step into that.
Well, thank you. I have loved taking my followers on the journey because I literally went from like just this big curly headed girl talking about makeup and skincare, which I still love and I still do. But the transition from like makeup and skincare to inspiration to coaching and allowing people to see me literally like shake and quiver and be like, oh, this live wasn't that great, but I'll catch y'all next week. Like, and leaving them up because I am the evidence, because someone's watching, even if they never like or comment or share. Somebody's like, oh, did you see her live 2 years ago versus them now? Like, please go check. Girl, the journey. I've loved taking everyone on their journey. It's been fun.
I'll tell you what, for the coaching industry, period, I still say that like being able to say that what we give is like, we go through the medicine that our clients are going to need, right? Like
Yes.
that is what we go through. And I think that those are the most inspiring and beneficial coaches to work with.
Yes. Yes. Yes, we can tell you because we know.
Yes.
Yeah, we know. And I think that for me, it has landed very well with my clients because they feel like, not only do they feel like they're talking to someone who can help them, they feel like they're talking to a friend.
Yeah.
Because you identify with them. And when you don't, you're like, that wasn't my experience, but please share with me. And you've identified with enough that they still connect.
Yeah. Could have said it better myself. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So any other words of wisdom?
Any other words of wisdom? It's Wisdom Wednesday. So
Ooh, it is.
It's Wisdom Wednesday. And I'll say the same thing that I said this morning. By the time that this airs, we will be in July, which is cool. But we literally have half a year left. Half a year. So in 6 months, when the ball is dropping, you can have 6 months of progress or 6 months of excuses. It's your decision. Literally, it's your decision. Your life can transform overnight. It all starts when you decide.
One decision.
One decision to do things different. One decision to change your life. One decision that says, I'm not doing that anymore. Not today. One decision that says, it's my time.
Coach K, this has been amazing.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. So I'm going to drop all of Coach K's information in the show
Yes.
notes. Please make sure to give her a follow. She also has an amazing podcast.
Yes. Please go hang out on my podcast. Check me out.
Yeah. So I will drop. Do you want to like give a little plug for your podcast while we're
Yes. The Girlfriend's Guide to Starting Over podcast just kicked off this month, and we literally talk about all the things, starting over and all the things, and we speak candidly about the F word, and by that I mean failure. We talk about it a lot on the podcast because people need to know it's okay to fail. As long as you're failing forward, it's fine.
Yeah.
I also have a freebie for your listeners because we talked about boundaries. I have a set boundaries like a boss guide, and I will shoot you the link for all of that too.
Whoop whoop.
Yeah.
Check it out, guys. So grab everything. The links will be in the show notes. Follow Coach K. I promise you, you will not regret it. And with that, Kayla, thank you so much.
You are so welcome. This has been delightful.
So, are you ready to start your own corporate detox journey? Well, if you are, make sure that you check out amandamcwhorter.net for different ways to work with me, as well as some freebies that could help you get started. If you're on social media, follow me at Amanda K. McWhorter on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram.